Hi, this is James Shillinglaw from Insider Travel Report. I'm speaking today with Jason Schreier, who's CEO of April Travel Protection, a travel insurance provider. We're here to talk about a major challenge impacting the travel industry and travel insurance, namely the coronavirus crisis, which began in China but is spreading to areas around the world. It is also impacting travelers and travel suppliers, namely cruise lines, tour operators, airlines, and hotels. We're going to ask Jason to provide some insights into the epidemic and what he feels travel insurance providers can do to alleviate their customers' concerns. Now, Jason, here's my first question. How has the coronavirus crisis impacted the travel industry from your perspective?
Well, it's definitely, reminded people about travel insurance and about things they can do to kind of safeguard themselves and their trip itself. It's lit up our call center for certain. We spend, I would say, a good portion of every day answering questions from people who have already bought, people who are interested in buying, people who are going through things in, some portion of the world, whether they're supposed to be traveling and a flight's gotten canceled or delayed, or even, unfortunately, those people who are getting quarantined on ships.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, there seems to be a lot of confusion out there as to what's covered by travel insurance in this situation, and what policies do cover travelers in case they just don't want to go on a trip right now. Can you sort of clarify that?
Yeah, certainly. It's the most common question that we get is, I'm afraid to travel. What should I do? Unfortunately, travel insurance really isn't set up to, alleviate fear of travel unless somebody takes what's commonly called the cancel for any reason upgrade, which many policies these days offer. So it's a very fluid situation, to be honest, as far as the whole coronavirus and how coverage applies or doesn't apply these days. Pretty much every travel insurance policy that I'm aware of has a grand exclusion for pandemics or epidemics. And as of now, coronavirus hasn't been declared as either yet. If and when that does happen, I think that you'll start to see, some of the underwriters, draw a line in the sand that's a little bit more clear. But as of right now, it is largely a fluid situation that, that a lot of the carriers are watching and kind of dealing with on just a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Now, what about the people who are directly impacted over there? Let's just take, for example, the folks on the cruise ships, specifically Diamond Princess. Let's say they took out some travel insurance. They're quarantined there. Are their medical costs being covered by their travel insurance, or are other Princess picking it up in most cases, or maybe the Japanese authorities? And I guess the other question is just some things like, they're now going to be away from work for 2, 3, maybe a month. Who's going to cover that if they do indeed have travel insurance?
Right. So quarantine, fortunately, is one of the items that is clearly spelled out in most policies. So, if you're in that horribly dramatic situation, the good news is that one is black and white in your favor, at least for most of the policies that we sell. So, yes, you would be covered there for the trip costs and things of that nature. Medical, you would be covered for. But it's hard to say because, again, these things are, there are small details in each. It depends on the client situation, which is why, we tend to say case by case right now.
Right.
And we have seen, some of the different authorities that you had mentioned, stepping in as well. Certainly we know some of the cruise lines who have had to do quarantines have been offering, I think, full refunds along with future cruise credits to a lot of the clients. So I think that the industry is doing a great job, it's stepping in and trying to, to be consumer advocates, so to speak. Airlines are waiving penalties. Mm-hmm. I saw Marriott just extended, their waiver of any penalties and fees as well. So, it's obviously it's a big hit for the industry. What's going on, and it's not going to spurn more travel, at least to that region of the world in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But, the industry, despite losing money over this whole process, is still trying to act in a human way, which is great to see.
Yeah. Now, what about that whole issue about time lost from work? Does travel insurance cover that in this case?
No, unfortunately, that's not something that typically would be covered by travel insurance. There may be other forms of insurance, and it would probably be, some corporate policies that some companies might have to be able to protect their employees.
Now, let's talk about some issues where people who were booked on trips, let's say to China, the tour operator just says, well, we've canceled everything, and then the airlines have canceled everything. Is there any role for travel insurance in that case if I have purchased it and I was planning to go on that trip?
Yeah, so all travel insurance policies offer something typically either a 10 to 14 day window where you can, get a refund on your policy. It's a period of time where you're able to read the general terms and conditions, make sure it's the right policy for you, and also would play as a factor here as well. Our company has been offering refunds when that situation happens, even if it's beyond the 10 to 14 day period. I can't speak to others within the industry, but again, similar to what you see the airlines and the hotels and the tour operators doing, we're also trying to take that human approach as well. So even though it's outside the bounds of what the policy typically would do, in this kind of a situation, we are issuing refunds to people if there's a trip that they had insured but it is not happening.
Well, that's great. No, but also from a travel insurance perspective, how does this compare, this coronavirus crisis, to previous contagions and natural disasters like SARS, Ebola, et cetera? I mean, how is this any different?
Well, I mean, SARS and swine flu, they feel, at least they feel like they felt pretty similar in the beginning. This seems like it's bigger and more prolonged. And, the quarantine aspect of it as well, I think is something that is, adds another layer of drama and complication to the situation. So it's starting to certainly feel bigger than anything that we've been through in quite some time.
Right. Now, what should travelers know about the limits of travel insurance in cases like this and cases like coronavirus?
Yeah, I mean, it's something where, if you have any questions, definitely it's worth reaching out because, like I said, not only is every policy different, but, every client's particular situation can be different as well. So it's hard to answer that generally. I would just encourage that they speak to, if they already have a policy, speak to the company that they bought it from, speak to their travel agent if they haven't bought yet, and somebody whose job it is to give you the right information.
Well, that actually leads to my next question, because we do go out to 100,000 travel advisors, and what should they be telling their clients about what travel insurance can do for their clients in cases like this?
Yeah, at this point, I would recommend that they push their clients over to their preferred company of choice because, like I had said earlier, it is a fluid situation. I don't feel like the lines have been drawn so that they're clearly black and white yet. Mm-hmm. And, so I think it's something that is being taken day by day. So definitely, refer the clients over to whatever company it is or companies they trust. And let those insurance companies advise the clients on what to do, and keep checking in because the story is not ended yet.
No, unfortunately it is not. But that's good advice, and I assume your advice throughout is it's still great, and the best thing is to have travel insurance protection when you're traveling like this, right?
It definitely is. I mean, this is one glaring example that just shows you things are unpredictable, and it's. Traveling is wonderful. It's something I feel like, we all do. We all do it many times a year, but, just like anything in life, there are unexpected dangers and pitfalls out there. So, it's always good to have an advocate in your corner, whether that's monetarily or just a 911 number that you really can call no matter where you are in the world and what your situation is. And that's really how people should be looking at their travel insurance partners. They're 911 around the world.
No, I think that's a good point. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your company, April Travel Protection?
Sure. We are a company that's owned by a French company based out of Lyon called the April Group. And, one of our unique attributes is we have something called stressless benefits. What's great about this is it allows our clients, when they do have an in-transit situation that they're going through that's clearly covered by insurance, to avoid having to even go through the process of filling out claim forms and getting reimbursed or laying money out in the first place. They just contact us like we were 911, as I had mentioned, and we can go ahead and coordinate the solution, and in most cases pay for it right there on the spot. So the client is able to be made whole, not front any monies, and just resume their trip and stay focused on what they had intended to do in the first place.
No, that's good advice, and it sounds like a great feature that your company offers. Is there anything else you want to tell our travel advisor listeners about this situation or travel insurance in general?
Yeah, I would just recommend to people if they have traditionally bought travel insurance or if they're looking to do it for the first time, to probably take a look into annual policies. It's something that I feel like is growing in popularity. I feel like the average American takes at least 2 to 3 trips a year. And instead of having to go through the process of re-enrolling each time or, unfortunately maybe forgetting to enroll on one trip, and that's the one where you end up having some complications on, just like you do with all the other forms of insurance, home, auto, health that you have, where they're all annualized policies, I think people should look at doing that more often with their travel insurance programs as well.
Well, that's good advice, Jason. Thank you so much for taking the time to clarify this situation a bit more. I know it's still as you described it, a fluid situation, and it's not something that we can prepare for every day, but it sounds like travel insurance companies, and your company in particular, and travel advisors and travel suppliers are really trying to do the right thing in this case.
We hope so. I appreciate you, James. Thank you so much.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.